It's time for the Ruffin Wrestling Show. Here's your host, Michael Ruffin.
How's it going, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Ruffin Wrestling Show. Coming to you on Tuesday morning. Hope everybody's having a great day. We're here to talk all about last night's episode of Monday Night Raw. All in all, I thought Raw last night was kind of just okay. It really fell victim to the fact that Raw should not still be 3 hours. However, with how things went down in last night in the final segment, I don't think Raw is going to be changing from that 3 hours anytime soon, but we'll get to that in just a moment. But let's start back at the beginning. We kicked things off with a battle royal for the Intercontinental Championship #1 contender. I didn't get a chance to see just how many guys started in the ring. It looked like it was about 12 to 15. It didn't look like a 20-man or anything like that. Miz was on commentary, and this was something that I have said for a very long time, and that is when Miz's career is over in the ring and he is not doing any more in-ring work. Miz has a career at the commentary table. I definitely like it when Miz is on commentary. He's just got a really good voice, he's got a really good delivery, and he really stays involved with his commentary a lot more than some of the other guys do, especially like Byron Saxton, Michael Cole. So I definitely think Miz will make a really good commentator somewhere down the line, but that's of course, for whenever his career in the ring is over with. As for the Battle Royal, I thought it's just okay. There really wasn't a lot of big names in it, so you could really tell from the start who were going to be the final people in the ring. You knew that the final guys would come down to pretty much who it did, which was Dolph Ziggler, Baron Corbin, Apollo Crews, Alberto Del Rio, and surprisingly enough, Darren Young. Baron Corbin really got a lot of the eliminations here. They really played it that maybe Baron Corbin was actually going to win this thing and go into a feud with Miz and finally be done with Ziggler. But in the end, it looks like him and Ziggler are just going to keep doing what they've been doing ever since WrestleMania. That's how long that feud's been going on. It's been going on since the night after Mania. So it looks like they're going to keep that going, if anything. And the commentators didn't do a really good job of this, but if you've been watching, you know that Darren Young has been doing a thing with Bob Backlund, the Make Darren Young Great Again thing, and Bob Backlund was actually outside for this Battle Royal cheering on Darren Young, who really kind of pulled a lay back and relax and just let everybody else kind of eliminate people. He got a few eliminations. I think he eliminated one of the Dudleys, maybe another person or so. But really, he spent a lot of his time lying back in the corner, and he ends up winning this thing by default when Apollo Crews and Baron Corbin eliminated each other, and therefore, like I said, Darren Young wins this thing by default. So Darren Young is your new #1 contender for the Intercontinental Championship. We cut backstage, and Stephanie and Shane were having a conversation about why Vince was going to be appearing on Raw. They didn't know. Maybe they thought maybe one of them was going to get fired, or that Steph wants to see maybe that she was finally going to get a promotion. Seth interrupted him, saying that Vince wanted to talk to him because Seth has exclusive footage of Roman Reigns for what he wants to call the Rollins Report. I loved the name of that. Seth Rollins having an in-ring talk show, very much like Miz TV or the Ambrose Asylum, something like that. I really like that. I think that would be a great thing for Seth Rollins. I know it's kind of comedic and kind of mid-cardy, but I still think it could be really cool when we got that segment later on in the night. The announcement team talked about Brock Lesnar at UFC 200, and also brought up that he is going to be facing a Randy Orton at SummerSlam. They cut to clip of Brock in his post-fight interview saying, answering a question about the future of his fighting career. He said that right now he is focused on one thing, and that is Randy Orton at SummerSlam, and that is the only time that UFC promoted SummerSlam. This was supposed to be, I think, a tit for tat, kind of thing, where UFC was going to promote SummerSlam and WWE was going to promote UFC 200. I think WWE promoted UFC a little bit more because, like I said, the only time I've ever heard UFC mention SummerSlam was during Brock's post-fight interview where Brock brought it up himself. So I don't think you can give UFC credit for that. I think Brock has to take all that credit. So Brock putting over his other company, I guess. Good on Brock. Speaking of Randy Orton, it is said he will be on the highlight reel on the Battleground pay-per-view. So the first time we'll see the Viper in ring in 6 or 7 months now, will be on the highlight reel during the Battleground pay-per-view. Backstage, Zack Ryder walks up to Rusev, turned him around, challenged him for the United States Championship. Because if you remember on last week on SmackDown, Zack Ryder said he was going to challenge Rusev for the U.S. title. And Rusev said if he wanted to challenge him, he needed to do it like a man and do it to his face. So that's exactly what Zack Ryder did. However, Sheamus blindsided him, knocked him down, and said that you've got a match this week, but it's not against Rusev, it's against me. Yay for us, another Sheamus-Zack Ryder match. Again, Zack Ryder versus Sheamus, it happened, it was alright. Sheamus won with a brogue kick, but after it was over, Rusev's music kicked in, he came out, beat up on Zack Ryder, put him in the accolade, and kept screaming, "I accept your challenge." He screamed it about 10 times, like a crazed madman. So, got his point across, I guess, there. Next up, we had Breezango versus the Lucha Dragons. This was kind of a sloppy match. Right at the beginning, Kalisto went for the springboard corkscrew that he does, and he slipped and almost went through the ropes. But he eventually did hit it again. Another sloppy spot was Sin Cara went for his springboard crossbody, and he missed his target, and Fandango had to sidestep to catch him and make sure that he didn't just completely flop out into the ring like a dead fish out of water. Shockingly enough, though, Breezango got the win with a pretty nasty supermodel kick. And he pretty much had Kalisto up on the corner, flopped over, hit him with the supermodel kick, and then rolled him up for the win. Breezango gets their first win, at least that I've seen. Now, I could be wrong here, but that's the first time I've seen Breezango get a win. So they get a win on Monday Night Raw, which the commentators are very quick to point out that next week is the draft, and they could be split up. Personally, I would not be upset if they split them up. I'm not the biggest fan of Fandango. However, deep down, I love Tyler Breeze because I'm a huge NXT fan, and I've liked Tyler Breeze since NXT. Personally, I would like to see Tyler maybe go back down for a little while and just, really, not change anything, but just get him somewhere where he's doing some good and he's not just jobbing out and losing on TV, and he actually can pick up some wins and maybe to get into some good programs down there in NXT while there's still some pretty big names on there. Next up was Seth Rollins, came up for the Rollins Report. He got a huge babyface pop even though he is considered a heel. He said he promised a scoop for us, and this is a snippet of a one-on-one interview between him and Roman Reigns, which I thought was goofy, but you know what? At least it's original and creative, and it shows that the writing team is at least trying to do something, where it was Seth Rollins asking questions, and then spliced in were clips from previous Roman Reigns interviews, where it made it look like he was proud of his suspension, and that he didn't care about the fans, and finally that he didn't belong in the triple threat match at Battleground. We cut back to Roman Reigns, but quickly after that, Ambrose comes out. He says that He is the top guy. He is the best in the world. He's not playing around. He's not playing any more games. And this all leads to Seth Rollins versus Dean Ambrose for the WWE Championship. They thought we were going to get it last night because Dean said he would fight him anywhere, anytime. How about tonight? And Seth, it looks like he's going to agree to the match, but then says, nope, we're going to do it on my time. We don't do things on your time. We do it on mine. And he sets the match for next week. So next week on Raw, we will get Seth Rollins versus Dean Ambrose for the WWE Championship. As you notice, they're already calling it the WWE Championship instead of the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, which leads me to believe that they will be splitting the belts again, and we'll have a title on Raw and a title on SmackDown, which I think is fine. I think that's great because it'll give the guys on SmackDown a big title to chase. I think both shows need a major, a minor, and then one gets the tag team and one gets the women. Personally, I would like to see the women go to SmackDown and the tag team stay on Raw. That's personally what I would like to see. So we'll have to see, I guess, kind of what happens there. Next up, we had Sami Zayn came out, got on commentary. Kevin Owens had a match against Cesaro coming up. Kevin Owens' music hit, but it did not come out. They cut to the back, and Kevin Owens was telling some referees and officials that he wasn't going to go out there while Sami Zayn was on commentary because it was an unsafe work environment, which I thought was very funny, very Kevin Owens heel work. Eventually Stephanie steps in and agrees with Kevin, says that it is an unsafe work environment, and orders the referees to come out and get Sami, which they do. This was a pretty good match, but again, we've seen it before. In the end, Owens got the win with a pretty nasty looking neck breaker, which was new for him. Not a pop-up power bomb. We've yet to see the package pile driver from ROH, but that's because Vince is scared of pile drivers. I think we'll eventually see the package pile driver. It's just going to depend on who took it. I honestly thought that John Cena would be the one to take it because Cena knows how to take a bump like that. Cena's taken pile drivers before because when he started, pile drivers weren't banned like they are now. I think they're unofficially banned. I don't think that's actually a official thing. Vince just doesn't like it. It's not like the blood rule where if you blade, you get fined and suspended. It's not like that. But I think he's just afraid of guys taking pile drivers because of neck injuries, concussions especially. So I think that's got something to do with it. But eventually a guy will come along that knows how to take that bump, and we may see Kevin Owens pull out the package pile driver. But he wins this one with a pretty new neck breaker finish. Afterwards, Owens grabbed a commentary mic, said he was the best in the world. Sami leaped out of the crowd, got on Owens, really beat him down for a little while, mostly for a distraction. Then he rolled him into the ring. Cesaro put him into the swing, and they threw Kevin Owens out of the ring. So really made Kevin Owens look foolish, like the kind of fool heel by the end of this one, and we got the big baby face pop to move on out of that segment. Next up, we had Renee Young backstage interviewing the club about their upcoming match with Enzo and Cass. They say that John Cena is not there because he's in Los Angeles practicing for the ESPYs. So they said what they're going to do is they're going to go out, they're going to beat Enzo and Cass, and they're going to get on a plane to Los Angeles, and then they're going to go beat up John Cena. Next to that, kind of a goofy segment, whatever. It's the club. They're promoting their program with Cena and Enzo and Cass that we have coming up at Battleground. So just keeping that ball rolling, keeping that thing going. Next up, we had Heath Slater versus Titus O'Neil. This happened. Titus won with the Clash of the Titus. Whatever that is, I don't know. Titus O'Neil, they've ever since the U.S. title feud he had with Rusev, they've really just kind of buried him down. They made him look like a joke in front of his kids. They made him look like a joke on Father's Day. They made him look like a joke on 4th of July. And now he's fighting Heath Slater on Raw. So there you go. That's if you're wondering what's going to happen with Titus O'Neil, there you go. Next up, we had another Renee Young segment for the night. She interviewed Sasha Banks, who said that she spent most of the weekend thinking about beating up Dana Brooke. That she went to the gym, she was thinking about beating up Dana Brooke. She was getting her hair done, she was thinking about beating up Dana Brooke. And then she was watching her cousin Snoop Dogg on Celebrity Family Feud, but she was thinking about beating up Dana Brooke. So, there you go with that. Next up, we had the segment between the New Day and the Wyatts, where the New Day went to the Wyatts compound and fought them on their own turf. This was very clearly WWE's answer to TNA's The Final Deletion, which essentially ended up being a six-man version of that, which if you've not seen The Final Deletion, I urge you to go and find it. It is one of the worst, most wonderful things you'll ever watch in your life. And the reason why it works is because Matt and Jeff are insane. They're crazy, and they take themselves way too seriously. So they took themselves way too seriously in The Final Deletion, and as goofy and as wackadoo as it was, the fact that they took themselves so serious during it made it work. It made it so bad that it was wonderful. It was one of the worst things that ended up being one of the best things. So it ended up being, like I said, being one of the best, worst things you ever saw. So it's just great. When you get people like the New Day and the Wyatts to do something like it, it doesn't necessarily work. It wasn't that the concept didn't work. It was just kind of poorly done. It was really badly lit. It took place obviously at night. It was super dark. You barely could see anything happening. There was a lot of quick cuts, a lot of shaky cam, and a lot of little splices into the film. So it just was very, just poorly done. And then it was a good idea that was badly executed. I still enjoyed it because anything fresh is good. Anything new is good. This is at least creative, trying to do something new and trying to do something, pretty cool with what they've got. And it just doesn't, but this one just didn't work. It would look bad if it had happened in the daylight and had been better lit, but it is what it is. I thought they would actually hold off on this till Battleground, but I guess not. Maybe we'll, somewhere between here and Battleground, we'll get an announcement that we'll see the New Day versus the Wyatts actually in the arena this time for Battleground. Because I think that New Day's reign as champions is coming to an end. I mean, when they hit SummerSlam this year, it will be a year. I see them getting the year, possibly, but possibly also by SummerSlam they could lose the titles. So we'll have to see what happens there. Next, we had Enzo and Cass versus the Club. Enzo and Cass, of course, did their normal intro. AJ tells them that John Cena doesn't care about them. He tells them to just walk away and you'll be doing what's best for you. Enzo and Cass said the only place they're walking is into that ring. So they came in, a decent match. Club controlled most of it. Cass got the hot tag as usual, but stopped when AJ pulled the top rope down as Cass was running into it. AJ threw Cass over the barricade, which causes the Club to get the DQ. So Enzo and Cass pick up the win there by DQ. This was a good essentially a good, I don't want to say a no decision, but a good DQ finish, because you want to hold this off until Battleground. But the real highlight of this is that John Cena actually was there. Either he was there all along or he flew in from Los Angeles and the ESPYs rehearsal to be there to do the run-in and save Enzo and Cass after the match was over. Now, having done live production, award shows, theater, things like that, I do know how the rehearsal schedules for these things work. So unless Cena is doing something extremely high productive wise during the ESPYs, which I seriously doubt he's doing like a huge musical number or anything like that, I don't see why Cena would need to be in Los Angeles promoting the ESPYs or rehearsing for the ESPYs on Monday. He'll do that Wednesday morning during the dress rehearsal. So my guess is that Cena did not fly in from Los Angeles to Detroit for this run-in, that he was actually already there, and he'll fly to Los Angeles probably today. to be ready for the ESPYs tomorrow. Next up in the death spot, we had Sasha Banks versus Dana Brooke, a match that went on for way too long. It was a 2-segment match. Dana Brooke does not know how to work longer than about 4 minutes, so to put her in a 12-minute match just makes the other person in the match look bad too. So this just looked really bad, as Sasha had to let Dana essentially get all this offense on her. It was, like I said, it was just a match that was just way too long. 12 minutes for this match was just entirely too long. This match could have been done in 4 minutes. Sasha wins with the bank statement, and after was even worse. Charlotte grabbed a microphone and said she was not impressed, that she didn't think Sasha had earned a title shot. So she tells Sasha, that if she can beat Dana again on SmackDown, yay for us, she'll think, quote unquote, about giving her a title shot. They are really milking this Sasha Banks and Charlotte match out for as long as they can. They're probably trying to get it till SummerSlam, which, okay, that's fine if you want to do that. Then you put put Sasha in matches with all the women. Make her go against Becky. Make her go against Natalya. Dana. If you want to do Dana again, fine. One more time. Paige. You can put her against, if you want to bring her back, Naomi. You can even bring up Ava Marie for a guest spot for a week. But do it where Charlotte is making Sasha run this gauntlet of women, where she's fighting a different woman every single week, and she keeps picking up a win. And it just what it'll do is it'll do two things. It'll make Sasha look really, really good heading into whenever she gets her hands on Charlotte, because she'll have gone off all these wins. It'll give Sasha a lot of wins on TV, since they've kept her off pretty much since April, because she did have a concussion, but she was working house shows, but they weren't putting on TV. So you give Sasha this chance to get a lot of wins on TV and look really, really good going into the match with Charlotte. And then when you get to the match with Charlotte, I think Sasha takes the title, because I just think it's time for a title change in the women's division, and who better than Sasha Banks? That's personally what I thought about it. Our final segment for the night, no main event match this week. Our final segment this week in the main event spot was the return of Vince McMahon to WWE television. Shane came out to the ring. Of course, Stephanie came out after him. Vince came strutting down to the ring, only as Vince can do. He started by commending Shane and Stephanie for doing a great job of running the joint. However, he was a little disappointed in them for not fighting each other to make the other look good. You see, Vince says he wants competition. So he tells Steph and Shane they have to convince him that they want to be the new commissioner, as they're going to be called, for SmackDown Live. Steph mentions that she's responsible for the WWE Network, the largest WrestleMania in history, and the recent attendance numbers, which, side note, I wouldn't have brought up because they've been poor. She then goes full McMahon and attacks Shane's character and says that he made all these comments on the Mick Foley interview, and those are just the nice things that he says, and doesn't include the nasty stuff he says about Vince behind his back. Shane gets to respond, and he does what Shane does, which is kiss the ass of the audience, wherever city they're in. The only person that does it better than Shane is The Rock. So Shane gets the cheap pop by saying that he was happy to be back in the Joe in Detroit, where he made his return before WrestleMania, a return that both humbled him and made him feel fantastic and welcomed back to the WWE. Shane, he says that he represents change, and he says change is something that he will bring to SmackDown. He also says that he's the only person who can speak his mind to Vince and be respectable without kissing his ass. I don't think that's true, but sure. Okay, we'll go with it. Of course, Vince doesn't give a damn about what the people think. No shit. Vince doesn't care about the fans at all. He just cares about the hard-earned dollar that you pay him. Vince calls for a drum roll, and before he announces that Shane will be the commissioner of SmackDown, but he says, but wait, there's more. Vince relieves Shane of his duties on Raw and awards them to Stephanie, who will be the commissioner of Raw. And he says that Shane and Stephanie are going to compete against each other for the keys to the kingdom. Law breaking, if they have to, just don't get caught. He says, but wait, there's even more. The next week, Stephanie and Shane will have to name general managers for their respective shows. Shane, or of course, but in the end, Steph tells Shane that she's going to make him wish that he was never born a McMahon, or that, better yet, that he was never even born. Shane responds by calling her, saying that she's scared of him winning, and Steph gives him an old-fashioned Stephanie McMahon slap to the face, and says that the only game that matters in this industry is the one that she's married to. Stephanie then gets out of the ring, almost busts her ass on the steps, to which Shane laughs, and so does the audience. Laughed at her as she made her way up the ramp, kind of laughing at her own self, because, come on, don't take yourself so seriously, and Stephanie really doesn't. Off camera, Stephanie's as sweet as can be. I met her at WrestleMania 30. She's super nice, super cool with the fans, and of course on screen she's, the $1 billion princess. But that is your episode of Raw. Well, I don't know what you guys think. I thought it was an okay show. I think next week will be very exciting, because it's the night before the draft. It's draft eve. We get possibly the names of the commissioners of who's going to be running Raw and Smackdown under Shane and Stephanie. So we'll have to see what happens there. But until then, I will see you guys next time. We're going to be back Wednesday night or Thursday morning. We're going to talk about NXT, because this week we have Shinsuke Nakamura versus Finn Balor in what I think will be Finn Balor's last appearance on NXT television, as I think he will be brought up during the draft, as will Bayley and American Alpha. But we'll be back on Wednesday to talk about NXT, and we'll be back later this week to talk about SmackDown. But I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, see ya.